Hello, beautiful people, Stephanie here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're taking a look at Syn Whistles from Australia, but if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know I've already reviewed the Syn High Whistles, and today we're taking a look at the Syn Low Whistles. I've been sent a selection of low whistles to review today from a company called bigwhistle.co.uk. If you don't know about Big Whistle, they're a tin whistle online store based in the UK, and they sell high quality whistles from tin whistle makers all over the world, and it really cuts out a lot of waiting times if you're based in the UK, and it cuts out things like import and duty fees as well, and any of the issues that we're currently having in the UK, especially if we're importing from EU countries. So it's a really useful place to find good quality whistles if you're UK based. If you want to find out more information about Big Whistle or check out their whistles that they have available at the moment, I have put a link in the description down below, or of course you can just head to bigwhistle.co.uk. Now, as I mentioned, I have reviewed the high whistle set from Syn. There's an E flat, a D, a C and a B flat, and they come with an interchangeable mouthpiece, so you get 4 bodies and 1 mouthpiece in the set. If you'd like to see that review, I'll link it up here on the little I in the description and of course at the end of the video. But today we're moving on to Syn's low whistles. Now, when you order from Big Whistle, everything always comes nice and securely packed and stored. You get a little bit of paper around your whistle to keep everything clean, and a little sticker saying Big Whistle on the front there as well. If I open this one up, you'll see we have a low D whistle here, and I've just opened up the low F and low G Syn whistle as well, which you can see here behind me alongside my high Syn whistles as well, and I will be showing you both the low F and low G today. Now, these whistles are made from polished aluminium, so they're lightweight. They're a straight bore whistle and they have a Delrin mouthpiece. The high whistles have a brass tuning slide, but the low whistles have an aluminium tuning slide. And we also have some plumbing tape around the whistles here just to keep everything nice and secure. The whistle tuning slide is really tight on these, which I like, but they are a little bit rough and ready looking around the tuning joint. You can see that we have the plumber's tape sticking out the bottom here. There are some blue bits along the top. So just be prepared that when they come to you, you can tell that they're handmade whistles. These haven't been made in large batches. They're made in small quantities, and they're made by hand. So if I show you some close-ups of these whistles, you can see the comparative sizes between the low D at the top, the low F in the middle, and the low G at the bottom. You can see we have the Delrin mouthpiece. They're quite shiny at the top here. We move down the body to a tuning slide in the middle. And you can see, as I mentioned on the low D, this one isn't actually perfect, but you could just snip this off. It's not going to affect the playability of the whistle at all. They're just a little handmade looking. As we move down, you'll see the finger spacing here and the relative lengths of the 3 whistles at the bottom. But overall, they look and feel like a reasonable quality whistle, and they're not actually that expensive either. The F whistle, as an example, is currently retailing for £110 on the Big Whistle website, which as far as low whistles go is pretty reasonable. Now, although they don't look immaculate, they sound pretty cool, and one of the things I have noticed with these whistles is they are easy to play across all notes in both octaves, which is something I always find very impressive. They've got a decent amount of back pressure, so you don't need a lot of breath, but you do need a little bit of push to reach the high notes, but it's actually pretty easy to get up there if you're used to that push. I always find whistles with higher back pressure much easier to reach the high notes on, and these have been an absolute dream. They have an interesting tone, so I'll give them a quick play for you now. And once I've got them warmed up, we'll do a tuning test on each of these to see roughly where we are on the tuning. So first impressions on these whistles, they're generally reasonably quiet as far as low whistles go, and that's because you don't need a lot of air to put through these whistles in order to make them play. I wouldn't say they would be the ideal session whistle, but they are really great whistles for playing at home, maybe playing with friends, or of course for recording because you don't have as much of a breath fluctuation between the high notes and the low notes. In a way, they remind me of Chris Wall whistles. You don't need a lot of breath through any of the notes, and I personally find them quite easy to hit the high notes on. But you do need to be aware that you're probably going to have to push a fair bit to get through this whistle. So let's give all three of these a tuning test and see roughly where we are now they've warmed up. So as you can see from the tuning test, the G and the F whistle are slightly more in tune throughout the whole range than the D whistle. The D whistle struggles a little bit in some places, but overall, once you get used to the breath requirements of this whistle, you should be able to hit pretty accurate tuning on every note, especially when it's warmed up. As for volume, as you can see, they're not all that loud, but the smallest whistle is the loudest whistle, which is a little bizarre. But if you're looking for a bit more volume, I'd recommend going for one of the higher of the low whistles rather than the low D itself. So the G or the F are a little louder and they might be suitable for playing amongst other musicians as well. The only downside for me is that they don't currently have any indication of the key of whistle on them. And I always prefer to have the key written on a whistle so I know exactly what key I'm picking up when I grab it, especially if you're playing in a session or if you're playing with other musicians. It's really useful to have a visual reference on your whistle so you know what key of whistle you're playing. The high whistles do actually have the key written on the top here. So, and they also have the branding Syn on the back as well. So I don't know if these are sort of brand new from Syn and eventually they'll have these added elements as well. But they're a pretty impressive first low whistle from a company that previously only made high whistles. So I'll give each of these a little playthrough now on another tune so you get to hear how they sound. And don't forget, if you want to hear one in practice fully, my recent found cover that I did of Mit dem Wind, I was playing on one of these whistles as well. So I'll link that in the description down below. So let's have one more round of how they sound. had one final playthrough of all three of these whistles, I will give you some of the pros and cons that I've found. I've actually found that the G and F whistle are considerably easier to play generally because you can put a lot more breath through them, they make a lot more sound, there's a lot more volume out of these whistles, and they play really easily and I'm really impressed with them. I quite like the quality and the tone of the voice of these instruments. They're lightweight, they're pretty affordable, and I think they're great. As for the low D, I'm actually kind of disappointed with it. I feel that there's such a small amount of breath that you need to hit those low notes, combined with the fact that one or two of the holes are quite large. But I think it's mostly to do with the breath. You expect this whistle to be so much louder than it is because the G and F are much louder, so it kind of hardly feels like you're playing this instrument. It's really difficult to hit the low notes, and you tend to get straight into the high notes. And it's quite difficult to play well, as you can hear from my sound sample. So I would recommend maybe giving it a little while before buying a low D whistle. They might continue and do some updates, but definitely the low F and the low G are really incredible whistles, especially for the price. I really, really like these. As I said, I'm just slightly disappointed with the low D, but it might be me. You guys might really like this whistle. If you would like to find out more information about these whistles, do head over to the Big Whistle website. I have linked it in the description down below, and you can decide whether these whistles are the next ones to add to your collection. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try and get them answered. Thanks for watching. I'll see you folks soon. Bye.